One of my most successful articles was the one I wrote after getting inspired by Dan's "You Are the Niche" philosophy. But at the time, I had no idea how it worked and how viable it was. I just adopted the perception because I heavily identified with it. Since then, I've spent 2 to 3 years reverse engineering human behavior to explain how it actually works, including why Dan's initial explanation is limited, how it fundamentally works when it comes to societal psychology, and how you can do it today without any of the downsides or cons the outdated perception and method has. If you take this seriously, it will rewire how you think about content, identity, and monetization. If you don't, you'll keep chasing algorithms and wondering why the right people never seem to find you. Section 1. The collective is greater than being the niche. Why the popular advice is fundamentally misguided. You are the niche sounds empowering until you realize what it actually demands. It assumes that whatever raw version of yourself you put out will automatically attract people who get it. That only holds if what you are, your real worldview, your principles, your vision, already overlaps with talking points a large collective already identifies with. Most people parroting "you are the niche" are repeating perspectives that collectives have already been primed to accept. They're not creating new identity, they're echoing existing ones. The moment someone's true perspective sits outside what any identifiable group already values or aspires toward, the advice collapses. Nobody cares what you're writing, saying, or selling if it doesn't map onto a shared perception of reality they already speak. Human beings don't primarily act out of reciprocity, they act out of identity alignment. They buy, follow, and pay attention to things that make them feel more like the person they want to be, or validate the person they already believe they are. A Ferrari isn't bought for transportation. It's bought because the buyer now identifies as the kind of person who owns one. Andrew Tate doesn't sell how to make money. He sells a philosophy and identity that certain men want to embody. When your content or offer requires people to adopt an entirely foreign identity just to engage with you, you're fighting human nature. When you instead speak the language of a collective you're already part of, their frustrations, their aspirations, their existing principles, you remove the friction. You can then layer your unique philosophy on top. The subset of that collective who resonates with your specific angle will identify with you more strongly, not less. Controversial takes don't repel them, they deepen the bond for the right subset. The exception is real. If your identity is rooted in mental illness, delusion, or self-destructive patterns, porn, victimhood loops, etc., no collective that matters will identify with it long term. This assumes you're operating from a grounded, non-indoctrinated place. Most be yourself advice ignores this filter entirely. Dan Coe's version works beautifully for people whose natural talking points already sit inside popular collectives. It fails the moment someone tries to spread genuinely original or contrarian worldview material. You end up posting into the void, wondering why being yourself isn't converting. Section 2. The CIUN plus philosophy method, principles, vision, and products as personification. The superior approach uses what I've come to understand through deep study of advanced persuasion frameworks like CIUN. The same methods quietly used by top copywriters, political advisors, and those who move serious capital and influence. It's not about being the niche, it's about anchoring everything in principles, what you stand for and won't shut up about, memetics, unique terminology that creates new mental categories, goals and vision, the future you're building and inviting others into, and subtle social proof, weaving your results into the narrative rather than shouting them. This is the Smurfleur operating system at the philosophical level. You don't lead with payment screenshots or generic value. You lead with principles, perspectives of reality that people can adopt to become more of who they want to be. You talk about your vision for the category, the company, the brand, or even society at a scale your audience can aspire toward. Your products and services then become the living personification of those principles and that vision. Instead of selling a course, you sell the embodiment of bridging the gap between noob and smurf or whatever your specific ethos demands. The offer doesn't feel like another info product. It feels like the logical next step for someone who has internalized your principles and wants the outcome your vision promises. Ironically, Dan has done this exact thing. Look at his articles. Article tells you X is a stupid idea based on his philosophy. He tells you Y is the better method because he discovered it after producing results plus firmly stands by it based on his vision. Sells you a course on achieving the outcome of Y, positioning himself as the authority. This is why certain brands feel inevitable to the right people. The product isn't separate from the philosophy, it's the philosophy made tangible. Cyan level persuasion makes this work at scale because it understands how neural pathways and societal programming actually form. It doesn't rely on impulse or noisy social proof. It builds quiet, compounding identification through consistent long form expression of principles and vision with memetics that make your solution feel like the only new category worth paying attention to. Every big authority, including me, you see on your timeline, are repeating the same exact talking points over and over and over. They are doing exactly what I'm telling to do instead, right now. Section 3 talk about anything you want while naturally attracting people willing to pay. When you speak the language of the collective you're already part of, you gain enormous freedom. You can introduce controversial ideas, deep philosophy, or contrarian takes because the delivery vehicle is already familiar. The subset that identifies with your specific angle self-selects. They don't feel sold to, they feel seen and then elevated. They gravitate toward your service or product as the obvious solution because it's the only one framed in the exact language of the principles and vision they've started adopting. You never have to give away your secrets or teach the how for free. You explain the principles, the vision, and the worldview. The right people then conclude on their own that your offer is the vehicle to get there. Every belief system has an ideal reality, the outcome they want to embody. For Christianity, it's eternal life and seeing their loved ones again. For Buddhism, it's inner peace and escaping suffering forever, then ascending to the higher domain of consciousness. For Dan co-followers, it's eliminating client work and writing for fun while never having to worry about money and freedom again. And for my students, it's gaining the fundamental understanding of how humans think, what makes them act, what makes them buy, and using that behavioral psychology, understanding, to shape reality as they see fit, while achieving feats known only to man as myth. The product becomes the vehicle to that dream, that vision, that seductive outcome. This is why Smurf style positioning outperforms generic value posting. People don't pay for information, they pay to reinforce or upgrade their identity. When your principles and vision become the map, your product becomes the vehicle they already want aboard. Section 4. Principles and philosophy as your non-negotiable identity core. When your principles and philosophy are integral to who you are, content stops being a performance for an algorithm. It becomes self-expression that happens to attract the right people. You're not guessing what to post, you're articulating the worldview you actually hold, using the language of the collectives you understand from the inside. This removes the exhaustion of trying to appease platforms. Long-form posts about what you stand for, where you're going, and why the current alternatives are insufficient flow naturally. Memetics, you create unique terminology for your solution get repeated by the people who adopt your perspective. Subtle integration of your results inside those narratives acts as indoctrination rather than interruption. The algorithm eventually rewards it anyway because the engagement that matters, the deep, silent, high intent compounds, but you're no longer dependent on it. Your identity is the strategy, addressing the obvious question. Should I still solve my own problems, then teach other people how to solve them in exchange for money? Sure. But understand that you are not confined to solely that. You can sell whatever you want and talk about whatever you want, provided you push more or less the same principles. And once you actually find those principles, those non-negotiables, you stand by no matter what happens. Aligning your products with what you say becomes child's play. You hate platitude content, you post awareness-changing content. Your course teaches people how to write awareness-changing content. You hate courses because 99% of people never complete them alone. You create a paid community where you teach and help in real time. You release a paid community building course, program, cohort. A principle eventually turns into a solution or many different solutions, which you sell access to. You can develop 100 different products and sell every single one of them to a subset of your target market. Solving your own problems and selling how to do it yourself does not come close to producing the results as using principles instead. You learn how to build a website, solve own problem method. You sell a website building course, DWY service. You believe everyone should be able to build their own website principle. Sell anything connected to websites, templates, SaaS, community subscriptions, high ticket, books, courses, physical products, merch, etc. Section 5. Distribution through word of mouth automations and direct response. No more years of platitudes. You do not need to spend years posting platitudes on Substack, Instagram, and X just to build an email list the way many You Are the Niche practitioners did. Distribution at this level uses two primary mechanisms: word of mouth automations created by strong identity alignment and direct response through narrative driven conversations. The social conversion method works like this. Your consistent long form posts on principles, vision, and memetics create a slow, compounding social and identity level conversion in the right people. Even when they don't publicly react, the worldview sinks in over time. They begin to see themselves inside the future you're describing. When a trigger appears, a product release, a personal problem, or a moment of clarity, they convert. They buy, they refer, or they engage at a much deeper level. This isn't passive content consumption, it's active identity transformation happening in the background until the moment of activation. The narrative cycle turns your timeline into a self-reinforcing engine. You cycle through posts that articulate your principles, expand on your vision, and subtly weave in results. This ongoing narrative loop does the work of lead generation without hard asks or direct promotion over time. The right people start DMing you, quoting your posts, asking questions, or sharing how the perspective landed. These are warm, high-intent conversations born from identity alignment, not cold outreach. The cycle keeps feeding itself. Every new post strengthens the narrative, which pulls in more of the right people, which creates more natural conversations. Smurflure and the CIUN framework behind it is especially potent on platforms like X and Instagram, where views are easier to generate. Combine it with the other elements of a proper trying content framework, and you remove the dependency on years of volume-based posting. The right people find you through identification, not through your ability to gain reach. Word of mouth spreads from those whose identity you've strengthened. Direct response happens inside the narrative cycle you've built. This is how you build influence and MRR without becoming a content machine that burns out. Your principles do the heavy lifting, your vision does the attracting. Your products simply personify what you already stand for. If you take this seriously, if you actually audit the collectives you're already part of, clarify the principles you won't shut up about, articulate a vision worth aspiring to, and let your offers become the embodiment of that ethos, everything changes. You stop performing for algorithms and start speaking a language that makes the right people feel understood and ambitious at the same time.